It was nearly midnight when my phone rang. Shiloh was crying. Her voice trembled over the line, cutting through the haze of grief I'd been stumbling through since my father's funeral. She was alone in the hotel room I thought she'd be safe in, alone and sobbing. She said her stepsisters had told her to sleep on the floor. Not asked, told. And something in me, something protective, ancient, fatherly, snapped awake. Let me back up. Just 2 weeks before that call, I buried my dad. The man who taught me to drive. The man who held my hand when I held my daughter for the first time. I was not in the right state of mind to plan travel logistics, so my wife, Candace, graciously took over the hotel arrangements. It seemed like a blessing at the time. We flew in. Candace and I, my daughter Shiloh, who's 16, and Candace's daughters, 19 and 17, my stepdaughters. We all stayed at the same hotel. Candace booked 2 rooms, one for us and one for the girls. 3 teenagers, 1 large bed. That was the setup. The night after the funeral, I sat in my hotel room, numb, hollowed out by grief, when the phone rang. It was Shiloh. Her voice broke as she explained that her stepsisters refused to let her sleep in the bed. The same bed Candace assumed they'd all share. But they told her she'd be more comfortable on the floor, that it was better this way. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was uglier. It wasn't about comfort. It was about power, about exclusion, about making sure Shiloh felt like an outsider. I rushed down the hall and walked into their room. My daughter had been crying. She had her bag packed, her arms clutched tightly around her belongings like armor. The stepsisters sat on the bed like nothing was wrong. I asked them, calmly, why they told her to sleep on the floor. They shrugged. "It's just more comfortable this way," one of them said. Not, "We're sorry." Not, "We didn't think it through." Just a cold calculation. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I looked at Shiloh and said, "Let's go." One of the girls asked where we were going. I told her, "I'm getting Shiloh her own hotel room." They didn't fight it. They just watched us go. Maybe they thought I wouldn't really do it. Maybe they thought I'd cave. But I didn't. Because something about seeing my daughter reduced to tears on the night of her grandfather's funeral, pushed to sleep on a cold hotel floor, broke something open in me. We walked to the front desk. I booked the room. I handed her the key, and I held her when she started crying again. By the time I got back to my room, Candace was awake. She'd gotten a call from her daughters. She wasn't angry that they'd kicked Shiloh out of the bed. She was angry that I'd wasted money. Angry that I gave Shiloh an entire room to herself. She told me I should have told her to suck it up for one night, that I was playing favorites, and then she said the words that chilled me. "You made my daughter share while yours got a room all to herself." Let that sink in. Not our daughters, not the girls, hers and mine. A division, a wall, a truth I hadn't fully seen until then. Candace didn't expect Shiloh to sleep on the floor, she said. She assumed all 3 girls would share the bed. She just hadn't anticipated her daughters refusing to make room for mine. But now, she was defending their decision, minimizing Shiloh's pain, framing my actions as favoritism rather than what they were, protection. We flew home. Days passed, but the argument didn't fade. Candace kept bringing it up, poking at it like a sore tooth. Her daughters wouldn't talk to me. They walked past me in the hallway without a word. And still, no apology. No acknowledgement of what they'd done. Candace framed it like I had embarrassed them. like I had created drama. But they were the ones who told a grieving 16-year-old to sleep on the floor. They were the ones who took a shared room and decided it belonged only to them. They were the ones who couldn't even explain why they were doing it. And I just did what any father should do. I took my daughter out of a room where she wasn't welcome. I got her a bed to sleep in. I made sure that on a night filled with pain, she felt safe, if only for a few hours. There's something about grief that makes you see people clearly, stripped down, unmasked. And that night, I saw a side of my wife and her daughters that I can't unsee. Maybe Candace thought she was keeping the peace when she booked one bed for 3 girls. Maybe she believed her daughters would be kind. But when they weren't, she defended them. When I protected Shiloh, she resented it. She called it favoritism. I call it fatherhood. And the hardest part? This wasn't a moment in isolation. It was a crack in the foundation, a sign of something deeper. Because when you see your daughter pushed aside, when you hear her crying because the people she's supposed to call family treat her like she doesn't belong, you can't just go back to normal. So, am I the asshole? Was I wrong for refusing to let my daughter sleep on the floor while her stepsisters took the bed? Was I wrong to spend money so she could have dignity and rest? Was I wrong to draw a line in the sand and say, this is not how we treat people? This is not how we treat family? Because if that makes me the bad guy, then I'll be the villain in their story. But I won't be the father who stood by and did nothing. Not now. Not ever. There's something haunting about this story. Not just the hotel room. Not just the funeral. But what lies underneath it. It's a tale about family. How fragile it can be. How easily love can become conditional. How people can carry invisible hierarchies into the most intimate spaces. It's about a man trying to grieve the loss of his father and protect the daughter he still has. About a girl, hurting, shoved to the floor by those meant to be her sisters. About the silent comfort of a hotel bed after a long day of being made to feel less than. And it's about the cost of doing what's right. We talk a lot about favoritism in blended families, about fairness, about keeping the peace. But fairness is not sameness. Fairness is compassion. Fairness is listening when someone's crying. Fairness is stepping in when the room becomes unsafe. This man wasn't punishing his stepdaughters. He wasn't even arguing with them. He just responded to his daughter's pain. He gave her something small, a room, a bed, a place to breathe. And yet, it cracked his marriage. And maybe that's what needed to happen. Because when someone tells you your child should suck it up on the floor, they're telling you who they really are. And when you ignore it, you're telling your child who matters most. So let me ask you, listener, have you ever seen favoritism masked as fairness? Have you ever had to protect someone and been accused of going too far? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about it. Because sometimes the simplest act of protection is the loudest declaration of love. And love, real love, is never wasted.